Hi there, we are going to continue talking about memoirs. And I want to kind of go back and redo a little bit of what we did last week because as I was grading the work, it was very clear to me that a lot of you did not understand the characteristics or the features of a memoir. And if you don't understand that, it is a problem to move on. So, what I want to do is give you a little extra guidance on what a memoir is. So the first thing you're supposed to do is write down what a memoir is. And if you didn't know, you could have used this definition right here, but put in my own words. It's basically a short text centered around a memory. So an author will write, it comes off like a story, but it is a memory from their life. So you might know that a biography or an autobiography is something that is written about a person's entire life. This would just like be a little piece of that, one story in somebody's whole life. And then the other word was a mentor text and its purpose. And a mentor text is an example text that's used for learning and showing how to write in a particular format. So if you were wanting to write a memoir, it would be a good idea to read a good memoir so you kind of understand what the format is and what it looks like. There's a lot of different types of writing. And then I asked you to read at least 3 informational texts and learn what other writers are saying about memoirs. And then in the table, write the patterns and other pieces of interesting information shared about memoirs. So authors tend to like to help each other out. And there are several, 6 or so articles written about memoirs. And if you were to read more than one, you would see a lot of repetition. So what I did, I had these discussions with my in-person classes, and what I did is I wrote down all of the things that came up again and again and again, so you would know what I mean by that. Most of you got 1 or 2 of these characteristics or features, but didn't have enough to do the second part, so then you got a little stuck, and it seemed as though you didn't really have some good direction. So if you were to read these informational texts, you would find that a memoir is about one specific memory of the author, and it has a narrow focus. Typically is happening, something that happens in a day or over a short few days, or it's one important event. It will be written in the first person. In other words, the person writing the story will be the person who experienced the story. So you're going to see the words I and we a lot. There is typically a very clear lesson at the end. The lesson is going to be something that readers can apply to their own lives. So it can't be something too specific, like, that's when I learned not to jump off the roof, because maybe you would know already not to jump off the roof. It's going to have to be a bigger life lesson. Usually a good memoir is going to have very vivid details using imagery, and these vivid details help the readers picture it in their mind. So not only can you relate to it, but you can see the whole story happening in your mind because of those details. Another feature is typically there's a very strong emotion that surfaces, and it's carried throughout the entire memoir. Next, the author shows vulnerability. What that means is they don't share their best moments. It's a time where they learn something. So a good memoir typically is not about somebody who they won the baseball tournament and everything went perfectly and the team got along and they made the great play and then they got a trophy and there was nothing wrong. That's great. It's just not a very good memoir because that's not interesting. People like to see and hear about when people have a hard time because others can relate to that. And if you're vulnerable, that means you're kind of showing yourself not in your shining moment. Another feature is that not every detail is exactly as it happened. It's more important for the story to come together. So if you told a memory exactly every single detail, it might be kind of hard for the reader to understand. So sometimes the authors will just kind of, combine things and make it a little bit more understandable. An author will have to be careful not to reveal private parts of other people's lives, since our stories are all intertwined. If you're talking about a time when you weren't doing great, you might have offended somebody or told somebody's secret, and so you have to make sure to respect other people's privacy. And then lastly, even though the memory likely will involve something bad, don't whine or complain about it. If you sit there and complain like, oh, but this is so bad and it wasn't my fault and so did this, you come off as a whiner and nobody wants to listen to a whiner. So these are some of the things that came up over and over and over again in these informational texts. So what I wanted you to do is look for these characteristics in Me and the Geography Bee. See if you can find this author doing this. So for example, one of them is that there is a strong emotion involved. You are going to notice that this author talks about being humiliated right from the very beginning and keeps that going through the entire thing. You're going to see he said he was mortified at the idea of being laughed at because he had a stutter. You're going to notice that he said things like, I was the one kid who had to walk all the way and basically admit my defeat. You're going to see that humiliation appear over and over and over again. And so that's what I want you to record down at the end. So a strong emotion, this is where you might write humiliation and then give some examples of that. Where it says it needs to be about one memory, here's where you write about, this is about a student who participated in the Geography Bee and did terrible. Written in first person. Find a piece of the text that shows it's written in first person. How am I supposed to know? I don't think that's written in first person. So you find examples of these features of a memoir in there. And what you might, these are the ones I know come through strongly. About one memory, strong emotion, written in first person. There's a lesson in the end. It has a lot of vivid details. It shows vulnerability. I know if you use those, it would definitely work. So I'm not looking for annotations. I'm looking for you identifying features of a memoir. I'm going to give you a chance to redo that. Feel free to go through this. I've got this document that I have called Extra Guidance in What is a Memoir linked, so you can copy and paste some of these features, and you can copy and paste some of these that I have written down here, but then you're going to have to come up with the examples from Me and the Geography Bee. Okay, good luck. I hope it goes a little better this time. I'll probably wait, a day till, I'll probably wait till Wednesday to grade this, but Tuesday we're moving on, so make sure that you do a good job. Talk to you later. Bye.